Well, hello everybody. Welcome to installment of Virtual Christmastide already. It's been a great journey with everybody. I'm sorry we couldn't see it in person this year, but we've had a really great time putting these that brings you some of the spirit that you might usually feel at Christmastide at Locust Grove. And hopefully we'll all be back together again next year. So tonight we're making punch. Punch was the preferred way to experience distilled spirits from the 17th century all the way well into the 19th. And so when you come to see us in Christmas in the house and we were really eating and drinking, chances are you would see a bowl of punch. So the reason why they did that, it was a way to make the spirits enjoyable, a way to make them palatable. We're at a time when things hadn't really been refined as much as they have at this point in history. And so it's not that everything was necessarily terrible, but there was a lot left to learn about distilled spirits. And so this is how they made it into a nice, smooth, enjoyable experience. And if you can find any 18th century images of men gathered around a punch bowl, these guys were not suffering, okay? And of course, eventually punch gave way about midway through the century to the individual cocktails that we think of today. So there's this kind of bowl, communal way of experiencing these spirits was the fashion at the time. So one thing we're going to do tonight, though, is I'm going to do kind of a special COVID edition of a bowl of punch, since a lot of us aren't going to be around a whole lot of people this year for Christmas. I thought we might need some tips on how to mix up something a little bit smaller. And so this is an original recipe from the late 17th century. His name was Dr. Salmon. He wrote down his punch recipe, and this is one of the earliest recorded punch recipes out there, and it was reprinted by the wonderful spirit author David Wondrich in his book about punch. If you're interested in the topic at all, you got to get this book. This is the best, most complete research out there. Even if you want to disagree with him, you just got to know his information because his research is outstanding. I'm also going to give a shout out tonight to my buddy Aiden Pemberton. If you've ever been to the 18th century market fair and you've seen a tall man walking with the Illinois Regiment with the flag, that's Aiden. And he is one of the best mixologists I know. And him and me have spent some time talking about this recipe. And when we first started talking about it, he sent me a breakdown of how he does kind of a sample batch so he can test this before he puts a lot of spirit into it. I was looking back through these notes. And I remembered it was amazing, and it occurred to me, well, this sample batch is good for like 2 or 3 drinks, so that's maybe good for us right now if we're at home celebrating with just our household. There's going to be 2 of us here this Christmas. So this is a very simple punch recipe. It's just easy to do. There's not a whole lot fancy about it. There's not a whole lot of steps. It's mostly just mixing. So instead of a bowl today, I'm just going to use my big cocktail shaker since we're not going to do that much. You're going to want to get about 6.5 ounces or so of just room temperature water. Whatever you're mixing in, you're going to want 1.5 ounces of just plain white sugar. And if you don't have anything to measure with at home, that's just 3 tablespoons. So 3 tablespoons of sugar. We're going to put that in. We're going to get that good and mixed up first. If the water's too cold or you put the spirit in too soon, then it's not going to want to mix up right. And so we're going to try to get that nice and dissolved. It's looking pretty good. So our spirit tonight is going to be brandy. Now, here in Kentucky, we're known these days for our whiskey, but 200 years ago, all the way up until Prohibition, brandy was also a big part of the spirit scene in Kentucky. It was Prohibition, killed it in 15 years, changed things forever. So I'm always excited when we can talk about brandy. We know that they had fruit orchards at Locust Grove, and they had a distillery. And so very likely they were making their own brandy. And we don't know how much of it made it to their table, but if it did, then it's entirely possible that it was in the form of punch. Now, if you've been to any of our special events where I've made punch at Locust Grove, you see me use a white brandy. And I do like to do that a lot of times because often the spirits were not aged in oak. or in wood like we think of them today. That's where that brown color comes from, or that reddish color, and that's where some of the flavor comes from. So a lot of times I'm using a white brandy for this. I'm decided to switch it up a little bit. I'm using Spirits of French Lick, Old Clifty Hoosier Apple Brandy. I'm really excited about this stuff because this is, once you did get into barrel aging with brandy, this is the closest that you can get out there today to an actual American apple brandy of the 19th century. And Alan Bishop, who is the master distiller at Spirits of French Lick, he helps us out all the time with the distillery program at Locust Grove. He comes down, he helps us mash, he shares his knowledge, and so this is something that I just all around feel good about. This stuff changed my life. So if you can find some, get it. And we're going to do 5 ounces of this brandy in our punch. Alan said when they first started having this at like tasting events and whatnot, people who eat this because it actually has a lot in common with whiskey as far as how it actually comes out. This stuff being made side by side back in the 19th century. So that was 5 ounces of brandy. You can use whatever brandy you like. And we're going to do about 1.5 ounces of lime juice, okay? And actually, this is my Locust Grove shot glass. You can get these in the museum store from Jennifer there. They measure 1.5 ounces. Again, that's also 3 tablespoons. We're using limes, and these did occur a lot more frequently in the earlier punches than later on when we see more happening with lemons. So it's 1.5 ounces of lime juice. That's about as complicated as it gets. Now you can separate this now into 2 or 3 cocktails, all right? 3, you'll still have a good sized cocktail. If you decide to split it up between 2, please definitely do not operate a motor vehicle or heavy machinery, and probably don't on Christmas call any relatives that you might not want them to know what you honestly think about them. There actually are only 2 of us here tonight, but there are other things I have to do today. So we'll do that. We're going to take our nutmeg, grate it over top. And there you have an authentic early punch made in a small batch for these small celebrations that we're all probably going to be having at this point in time. And this is actually the first time I've done it with this particular brandy. So let's see how it turned out. The nutmeg aroma is wonderful. It's just a great balance of things. Seriously, if you can find this brandy, get it. It's a wonderful taste of the 19th century. It's real craftsmanship, and it just is a smooth, almost. You'll have to taste it. The aroma from the brandy just mingles with everything else just perfectly, comes through that nutmeg and up through your nose. I wish I could articulate it a little bit better, but it's wonderful. So I hope maybe you can give this a try. Maybe it'll brighten your socially distanced college. And it's time actually for me to say goodbye as far as this program goes. This is tomorrow is my last day at Locust Grove is on the staff. This will be my last Christmastide at the helm as the staff person in charge. It's been a great journey. We came up with this program, with the Christmastide program, the way that we're running the first person interpreters now, back in 2013. And whenever you see these guys out there, whether it's in person or online or whenever you see them, this is a group of volunteers, okay? And some really remarkable volunteers. They don't get paid. They have rehearsal requirements. They have clothing requirements, to fulfill and all this kind of thing. And they do it, and they only ever want more. And the program is what it is because of them. We laid out the standards, we laid out the strategy, but the places that the combined passion and the combined knowledge and everybody brings this thing to places that I never could have imagined, and I could not be prouder to have been at the head of this group. And I know that they're going to be doing some amazing things going forward. And I'm glad to be leaving on this note, basically, because this is a very high note, and these volunteers have been something really special to work with. So thanks for everything. Thank you for coming along with us at virtual Christmastide. Thanks for coming to actual Christmastide. Thanks for everything you do for Locust Grove. Let's come to the book sale if you're a member. If you just, give us a hand and a pat on the back, we really appreciate it. And here's to you, and best wishes for the season.